in a world. Okay, kind of a sloppy intro, but we'll get there. Hopefully everything's working. We are using OBS, so we'll see how it goes. But what up, fam? What up, fam? All right, so Schooling Globers episode 8. Put together a little presentation, maybe a couple mistakes in there, but I tried to get it done. Cool. And I'm going to let you guys pick which format I show the presentation. You guys can tell me. So the first option, this one, where I'm blocking a ton of it. Second option, just the presentation. Third option, chat, me, and the presentation. Love you, brother. MKE Matt. Thank you for the $50 super chat. Very generous. It will probably pop up on the screen if everything is working. But thank you for the generous super chat. Much love. All right, so I think this looks pretty cool as long as the words are big enough for you guys to read, because this way we can see the chat. So I think it's pretty cool. You guys can see the chat on the screen. And I don't know if it's showing super chats though. Let's go. Member for 5 months. Clearview, thank you for being a miswit for 5 months. Third one. All right, cool. I'll just do the third one and we'll see what happens. Okay, so the stream is in the true nature of the name of the stream. We are going to be schooling Globers about the globe deception and its timeline. Obviously, if I were to put everything in it, it would be a 12-hour show. There are certainly things that have been left out, but we're gonna figure it out. All right, cool. The chat looks crazy. There's probably a reason. It's probably something I did. Don't got time to mess with it. Okay. Let's get started. So, globe deception timeline. You guys can tell me if you think I should switch to where the presentation is full screen or whatever. If it's too small. All right. So, the globe deception timeline. I've briefly covered this some when I was on my tour off the top of my head. People wanted me to cover it and wanted a little timeline that they could show people. So here it is. Let's start from seemingly the beginning. So here's what we're going to cover. Here's the timeline. We're going to go from 350 BC all the way through to 1933. And then from 1945 all the way through to 1972. And like I said, so much more could go into this, but I will move my cursor and let you take a screenshot. We'll actually go full screen so you can take a screenshot of the timelines here. We go from the globe Earth inception all the way through the Copernican model, Michelson-Morley, all the way to dark matter. And then we go from Operation Paperclip all the way to the infamous blue marble. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, let's come back over here. And like I said, if you guys think it's too small, I'll keep it full screen. But we're going to go ahead and go to the first slide. 350 BC. Presentation is better full screen. Okay, everyone agrees full screen. Cool. I'm cool with it. Boom. Yeah. I'll come over here to explain stuff. Okay, cool. So, scene 1. Let's go. 350 BC, globe Earth inception. Aristotle allegedly, now we're obviously rocking with the historical claims, was the first to declare the Earth was a sphere. He was the first to formally declare it according to the official mainstream narrative. Some people had mentioned it inadvertently in poetic form, but Aristotle is the first to formally declare the Earth is a sphere, because moving north and south causes an alteration in the horizon in his writings on the heavens. This was built upon earlier declaration that the perfect shape was a sphere, thus the Earth must be a sphere. So I'm actually going to come over here already. So this is important to understand. This has a philosophical birth, in which they thought the perfect shape was a sphere, therefore the Earth must be a sphere. You will hear all kinds of stories about how he looked at the eclipse. He saw boats disappearing over the curve. If you actually read the writing that we allegedly have access to, he says that because the horizon changed when you went north to south, the Earth must be a sphere, not only a sphere, but a very small one. That's what he said. Of course, what you view relative to the horizon changes as you go north and south on a plane Earth as well. So from what we do know is his reasoning was very dumb. Okay, that's what we do know. So very simply put, it was a philosophical premise. The Greeks decided to come up with all kinds of philosophies when they weren't pedophiles. And so here we are. We have the globe. Just so you guys know, that's the official beginning point. Of course, the second one is you'll hear in mainstream articles that he saw boats going over the horizon, which is funny because they just had their naked eye. So I guess the telescope would have made them look stupid, because then you could see the boat from much further, and parts of the bottom of the boat that were obstructed. That's right. You can bring the boat all the way back into view except for the part that's in the water. And as Zach covered in Globebusters last week, actually due to the aperture of any type of optics, you are always going to see the bottom disappear first, because it's going to reach your line of sight before what's higher above it. Simple product of perspective. Okay, let's go to the next slide. 250 BC, distance to the sun. Look at these cool guys here. It is said that in 250 BC, Aristarchus used the quarter moon phase to determine the distance to the sun, guessing the angle and estimating that the moon is 1/3 as wide as the Earth. That's right, you heard that right. He determined the distance to the sun by guessing the angle and estimating that the moon is 1/3 as wide as the Earth. The alleged method is built upon the assumption that during a half moon, the three celestial bodies, the sun, moon, and Earth, should form a right angle. He guessed that the sun was 19 times as far from the Earth as the moon and 19 times as big. I think he may be a little off, seeing as how they currently say it's 400 times as big. Okay, next slide. 240 BC. Well, these guys were knocking it out. Eratosthenes. Lacking primary documentation of any sorts. That's right, we literally don't have any primary documentation of this story. And the two secondary documentation sources that we do have are completely different stories. So that's not weird. It is said that Eratosthenes noted that the water wells and pillars in the city of Syene did not cast a shadow at noon on the summer solstice, yet 500 miles away at the same time, the shadows were long and drawn out. Assuming the Earth a sphere, the light rays from the sun to be parallel, and the sun to be infinitely far away, he calculated a circumference of the assumed spherical Earth. Okay, now, of course, what is hilarious about this is even like the mainstream hit pieces like from Big Thing with Neil deGrasse Tyson and Michelle Thaler from NASA, etc., they'll tell you in their hit piece against Flat Earth that it would definitely work on a flat Earth with two sticks. And of course, we've actually shown that you can have a flat table, have a local light source, use some type of lens to imitate the Atmos, and that you can actually take the shadows, do some spherical math, and make the table a sphere in your math. A flat plane table can be made to be a sphere, assuming spherical geometry. This is very simple stuff. Again, according to the mainstream narrative, he only looked at 2 locations. Now, apparently, he somehow knew that the exact same time and exact same day, somewhere 500 miles away, was doing something. The stories are different, how he did or didn't go there, what he was looking at. It's pretty hilarious, but it doesn't really matter. Because the point is, if you think about it, he says that, if we go north, Aristotle says, we go north and south, things relative to the horizon changes. Earth must be a ball. And that would happen on a flat Earth. This guy says, look, the shadows in 2 different places are different. That means the Earth's a ball. And that would happen on a flat Earth. So when people say, we've known the Earth was a globe for thousands of years, Globers, pay attention. When you say that, you sound very ignorant, because the alleged ways that they discovered the Earth was a globe actually doesn't prove the Earth's a globe. Looking at 2 shadows doesn't prove the Earth's a globe. Seeing a difference in the sky relative to the horizon, north and south, doesn't prove the Earth's a globe. Seeing boats disappear over the water with the naked eye doesn't prove the Earth's a globe. So they didn't know the Earth was a globe for thousands of years, even if we take the historical accounts to be true, wherein which they still were the vast minority of people at the time. So it's a very ignorant talking point used to gaslight you. But Globers, if you have any intellectual honesty, you will stop saying that, because it's just actually remedial. Okay. Wrong one, my bad. All right, let's move back on to the next slide. All right, 1492. Sorry about that. So we go all the way up to 1492. This is the first globe model. Isn't that funny? The first globe model. So the Nuremberg terrestrial globe is the oldest existing scale model of Earth, known as the ᴜᴏᴜ, don't care, meaning Earth apple. Wow, science. It was created around 1492 by German explorer Martin something and painter George. Coincidentally, this is the same year Christopher Columbus allegedly utilized the globe idea to discover, quote unquote, the Americas on accident. So he used the globe to navigate, as goes the story. In the same exact year, the first globe model ever was made. And by the way, it's inaccurate according to the current globe model. And he thought he was in India. So, wow, let's go globe. Go team globe. All right, next slide. 1543, we have the Copernican model. It is said that Copernicus proposed the heliocentric model, making observations of the sky with his naked eye. Wow. He allegedly did this because the math was simpler. In fact, he was quite clear it was simply a model to provide mathematical simplicity founded merely in theoretics. In fact, here is a quote from him. The Pythagorean teaching was founded upon hypothesis, and it is not necessary that the hypothesis should be true or even probable. The hypothesis of the movement of the earth is only one which is useful to explain certain phenomena, but it should not be considered as an absolute truth. Now, I meant to take of heliocentrism out of here. I don't think that's in the original text. Okay, but again, let's just read it. The Pythagorean teaching was founded upon hypothesis, and it is not necessary that the hypothesis should be true or even probable. The hypothesis of the movement of the earth is only one which is useful to explain certain phenomena, but it should not be considered as an absolute truth. That's Nicholas Copernicus himself on the revolutions of the celestial spheres, 1543. Now, I'm going to come over here real fast. What is so funny about this is they try to paint this narrative that in the name of science, he went up against the tyrannical religious system of the time, the Catholic Church. He risked it all. He risked it for the biscuit, you know. He was out here just risking it for science and truth and discovery, and he was just persecuted. No, he was on quote-unquote house arrest in a massive castle. Oh, man, that's rough. While people were being literally tortured and murdered for holding Bibles. This guy was in no way persecuted by the Roman Catholic Church. They were burning people at the stake with Bibles around their neck, and this guy got to stay in a massive castle. Okay, so let's just get that stupid narrative out of the way. But the official narrative is he didn't have any telescopes. They didn't exist yet. He just looked at the sky with the naked eye. He just wanted to try to make the math work. So he just adopted a simpler form, right? That the math was simpler. So he chose the heliocentric idea. Now, actually, he was a sun worshiper. He thought the sun was, symbolic of enlightenment, right? They had this obsession with Gnosticism, the Emerald Tablets, with the idea of apotheosis, becoming a god, and that the path to apotheosis, or attaining god-like status, is full enlightenment or self-illumination, and that the sun is the perfect symbol of this illumination that they should strive for. Thus, it's logical to them that they go around it. It's glorified alchemy built upon occultic sorcery and sun worship, and that's what they say. Okay, so there is no magic discovery that Copernicus came up with. The official narrative is he just thought the math was simpler. Okay, it seems to just be, all this seems to just be stories, to be honest. I mean, I could have gone into extreme depth about a lot more of it, but we'd be here all day. So, all right, moving on. 1609, Kepler's laws. Now, I actually have a quote I couldn't find from Kepler. He says that they've shown, well, we'll read this first. Using Tycho Brahe's geocentric model and data, Kepler proposed his idea of planetary motion and the laws that govern this phenomena. Tycho Brahe was in fact the tutor of Kepler. Kepler claimed the motion in the sky was governed by acoustics, vibrational resonance of sound. Kepler expressly acknowledged all theories of the spherical nature of Earth and heliocentrism were strictly built upon philosophy. And he says this point blank in multiple writings. He says, I've demonstrated through means of philosophy that the Earth, I've demonstrated the redundity of Earth, meaning that the Earth is round, and that it moves around the sun, and by means of philosophy. Okay, so Johannes Kepler, there you go. And of course, he came up with the planetary motion of the bodies, and Tycho Brahe was his tutor. Now, there are, to this day, neo-Tychonic systems that mainstream astronomers and astrophysicists will acknowledge can actually mathematically map out the sky, which is why it's so hilarious. He literally built his idea upon all the data of Tycho Brahe. So, that's pretty funny. Okay. 1659, Venus estimation. By the way, I would like to just point this out. Looking at the sky, seeing that objects move relative to one another in a repeating cycle, then creating a mathematical formula to describe the relationship of those bodies moving in the sky is not impressive. It doesn't make something true. Globers, pay attention. This is going Globers. I need you to pay. That doesn't make anything true. And if you make a model by looking at the consistent, perpetual, repeating cycle of the sky, and then you make your model built upon that, then you turn around and say, look, it matches the stuff in the sky, and you utter the word prediction, you are lost in incompetence. That is not how it works. 1659, the Venus estimation. In 1659, Christian Huygens, probably butchered that, allegedly used the newly invented telescope to determine the astronomical unit, which is, of course, the distance to the sun, by guessing that the diameter of Venus was the same size as the Earth. He got within 5% of the currently accepted astronomical model. All right, I got to come all the way over here. Look. Globers, pay attention. If you believe that the Earth's a globe, I need you to pay attention. The official story is that this guy, Christian here, just guessed that Venus was the same size as the Earth and just so happened to get it pretty much accurate. Turns out that Venus is pretty much the same size as the Earth. And by the way, side notes, Aristotle makes the first reference to the idea of Venus being the same as Earth, calling it the sister Earth. This is philosophy that people made up and conjured in their like occultic belief system, their ontological philosophy. That's all this is. It's ontology. It isn't science by any stretch of the imagination. If you think that this model is in fact true, you must believe that this guy just luckily guessed that Venus was the same size as the Earth to determine the astronomical unit, and then got within 5% of the currently accepted astronomical value. And to mind you, right, the guy did the math, and of course this guy used the same method as Aristarchus, and then made the assumption of the size of Venus. Aristarchus said that the sun was 19 times further than the moon, and coincidentally 19 times bigger, so they look like they're the same size. And this guy supposedly gets within 5% accuracy of the currently accepted astronomical unit or distance to the sun, which is drastically different, which just goes to show you that based on what assumptions you make, what interpretations you prefer, how it is that you set up the data, using the same mathematical method, you can get tons of different models, tons of different relationships mapped out. In fact, just using simple trigonometry, you would think the sun and the moon are the same size. Okay, what they did was make an assumption about the shadows on the moon, and they said, oh, whenever it's a half moon, they must form a perfect right triangle, and then he guessed it was around 87 degrees, and then came up with this alleged astronomical unit, which was way off by like a factor of 20. Okay, moving on. Sorry, I'm still getting used to OBS. 1666. Sure some of you guys may have heard of this one. Joe W., thank you for the generous $50 super chat. Much love, brother. Thank you. I want a wig. Do you? In 1666, Isaac Newton apparently had an epiphany as an apple fell from a tree. He had never seen anything fall before that. Newton proposed the first attempted explanation of a dynamic force to describe the orbit of planets. He made it abundantly clear that he could not even think of any theoretical mechanism other than a direct act of God himself. He was a major proponent of an ether, attempting to explain gravity as a byproduct of this dense fluid-like medium without impedance or viscosity. Wow. Side note that I didn't have time to put in. There's a lot of stuff I didn't have time to put in. I'm giving the basic timeline here. But you know what else they said they did in 1666? That's the first time they claimed that they actually observed and recorded the stellium eclipse where the sun and the moon were both visible above the horizon during a lunar eclipse, which actually debunks the globe geometrically. First observed in 1666. What a coincidence. Gravity, 1666. 666 newtons on the Earth is the actual number proposed. Probably a coincidence. Coincidence that it's 1666 and 666 newtons. What are the odds? Could it be a coincidence? I guess, but pretty interesting. And then they say they discovered the polar ice caps on Mars in 1666. These people have just drank the Kool-Aid, man. All right, let's see what this wig wearer has to say for himself. Newton was very clear that any man with competent thinking whatsoever would never believe such an absurd notion that gravity is some force acts on matter through great distances without a medium to facilitate the interaction. He also made it very clear the Earth could in fact simply be at rest and geocentric. In order for the Earth to be at rest in the center of the system of the sun, planets, and comets, there is required both universal gravity and another force in addition that acts on all bodies equally according to the quantity of matter in each of them, and is equal and opposite to the accelerative gravity with which the Earth tends to the sun. And thus, celestial bodies can move around the Earth at rest, as in the Tychonic system. Physicist Isaac Newton. Now, just to make sure that everyone gets this here, because we are schooling the Globers here. Okay, when you have a fluid-like medium, any interaction is going to have an equal and opposite reaction or reciprocation, which is why in the top levels of mainstream academic sources, you will find them saying that dark energy seems to actually be the equal and opposite reaction of gravity, or it seems to be the anti-gravity, the repulsion, right? The other side of the coin, the interaction that happens outside the 3D dimensions, the 3 dimension. So it's pretty funny because that's what this is discussing. And the mainstream is now trying to figure out how to fix the dark matter, dark energy problem by acknowledging there seems to be a medium. Now, in fact, what we call gravity is nothing more than incoherent dielectric acceleration, so that's just electrostatic acceleration. There's a downward electric bias on the Earth. We have equipotential electric increase. So, of course, we actually have to have 2 Gaussian surfaces. Gaussian meaning able to basically conduct, to contain, or withhold charge. It has a certain capacitance, which is threshold for charge, as we covered in the last stream. Anyway, if you have 2 of these surfaces parallel to each other, that will allow the electricity to be equipotential as it increases, because it has like a finite volume that's being controlled. Thus, you have equipotential. Okay, and this means an equal increase in potential energy with the same amount of increase in altitude. The only way this is possible is 2 Gaussian surfaces. Anyway, we have thus downward electric current to the Earth. Now, this is intrinsically tied to the background medium, or the ether. Okay, so you can't have one without the other. In fact, gravity is not point specific, meaning it doesn't care about the center of a mass. All it does is seek equilibrium because it's just a byproduct that isn't coherent based on what happens in the ether. So, of course, there seems to be like an equal and opposite interaction. Of course, what's moving the stuff in the sky around is also having a reciprocation or a ripple effect in the ether. And that is what Newton is saying. Newton is saying, if there's basically an ether with like another type of interaction within that, then the Earth could just simply be at rest. Very simple. Let's see here. What you got? Can you explain the moon, feather, and hammer drop? Also with moon videos, how are they making the dust particles look as if gravity is much less? Okay. You're asking questions that you take forever in the middle of a presentation, but the moon, feather, and hammer drop. The moon, feather, and hammer. I don't even know what you're talking about. The moon. I don't know. I don't even know they dropped a feather and a hammer on the moon. So I don't know what to tell you. There's no way they could have done any fakery with objects dropping being tied to things with a little bit of resistance, though. That's absolutely impossible. They for sure went and defied physics and did something that they can't do 5 decades later, for sure. Not going to just explain all the moon landing right now, though. So next slide. Hey, if you want to believe in the moon landing in 2023, be my guest, brother. In order for the Earth to be at rest in the center of the system of the sun and planets, we did just read that. May not planets and comets and all gross bodies perform their motions more freely and with less resistance in this ethereal medium than in any fluid, which fills all space adequately without leaving any pores, and by consequence is much denser than quicksilver and gold? And may not its resistance be so small as to be inconsiderable? For instance, if this ether, for so I will call it, should be supposed 700 million or 700,000 times more elastic than our air and above 700,000 times more rare, its resistance would be above 600 million times less than that of water. And so small a resistance would scarce make any sensible alteration in the motions of the planets in 10,000 years. So just like I said, this is Isaac Newton in Optics, question 22, 1704. He goes on in much more detail, even more than this, describing that there would be an ether. Seems to be the only way he could even wrap his mind around the idea of some type of dynamic force causing the motions. And he makes it very clear that the Earth could simply be at rest. And here is his quote about gravity itself. It is inconceivable that inanimate brute matter should, without the mediation of something else, which is not material, an immaterial fluid-like medium, operate upon and affect other matter without mutual contact, as it must do if gravitation in the sense of Epicurus be essential and inherent in it. And this is one reason why I desired you would not ascribe innate gravity to me, that gravity should be innate, inherent, and essential to matter, so that one body may act upon another at a distance through a vacuum, without the mediation of anything else, by and through which their action and force may be conveyed from one to another, is to me so great an absurdity that I believe no man who has in philosophical matters a competent faculty of thinking can ever fall into it. Gravity must be caused by an agent acting constantly according to certain laws, but whether this agent be material or immaterial, I have left to the consideration of my readers. Isaac Newton in a letter to Bentley in 1692. And just so people understand, he's saying the idea that gravity is intrinsic, inherent, innate inside of matter, right? As in, like, gravity is no longer considered an intrinsic property of matter in the current paradigm, hasn't been for a long time. So when people say mass attracts mass, no, it doesn't. Not even in your own paradigm. Mass isn't attracting anything. Mass doesn't attract mass. That's what they tell, like, 5-year-olds so they can repeat it. Mass doesn't attract mass. If you say mass attracts mass, it's been proven, Cavendish, you're so far down the ladder. You need to take notes during the schooling the Globers. It's very bad. That's objectively not even your position anymore. So what I need you to understand is that mass attracting mass is a claim that gravity is an intrinsic property of matter. Okay? And just like my boy Newton here is saying, right? He's saying, dude, the idea that gravity is an intrinsic property of matter and that can act on another matter, on another piece of matter through a vacuum, through a great distance without something else like being the intermediary exchange between the two is so absurd that no man that's competent could ever fall into thinking that's the case. So they like to leave that quote out, right? They love to leave these quotes out for the earth to be at rest. They love to leave the ether quotes out. They love to leave this quote just bearing the misnomer, layman term, regurgitated script that is modern mass attracting mass misnomer. They love to leave this part out. I wonder why. I wonder why they took out the end where he alludes to the ether in the Principia, however you say it. I used to say Principia. Someone said that was wrong. Okay, moving on. 1887, Michelson Morley. In 1887, just so everyone understands Globers, okay? This guy is the one that gave you the first dynamic force. You have Kepler, that's the kinematic relationship, a geometric kinematic relationship of just their positions geometrically. Then you fast forward, you have 1666 Newton, who's trying to give you an explanation of what it is that does it. It's a dynamic force, and then he proposes the first dynamic force, calls it gravity, says that he can't even think of how that could happen unless it's a direct act of God himself, says there clearly must be an ether for this to even be possible, and then goes on to say the idea that just matter itself has gravity and acts on other matter through a vacuum is absolutely retarded. Okay. 1887, Michelson Morley. In 87, Albert Michelson and Edward Morley performed a test that, in the words of Einstein, should have been definitive in detecting the motion of the Earth through space. It was over 10 times more sensitive than it needed to be, yet no motion was detected. This showed that the Earth was in fact stationary, yet the conclusion was rejected due to philosophical devotion to the Copernican principle. It's almost like it's a religion or something. That's weird. Here's a little video of what we got going on here. So you shoot the light. You have perpendicular light intersecting, combining, going back to the same receiver. So if the Earth is stationary, then you would have them come back together. If the Earth is in fact moving through space, then you'll see right here that the light path that goes against the motion, so you see the motion is going this way, you'll see the light that goes against the motion is going to be thrown off of its path because the Earth is moving away from it as it moves out perpendicular to the other light. So it's going to come out at an angle, come back down slightly behind, so as it, oh, how dare you. So as it meets at the intersection here, wait, what's going on? How dare them? Okay, so you're shooting the light in the direction of the Earth moving, right? If it's stationary, this is what would happen. They would be equal because they're just they're just both stationary. Okay, if the Earth's moving, then you shoot the one light, it's going to be slightly behind this other light here because it is having to travel a greater path. So it's going to be shorter, okay? Very simple. And this was over 10 times more sensitive than it needed to be. It could detect as small as 2 miles a second. The Earth was allegedly orbiting the sun 20 miles a second. So they set this very precise interferometry being lasers that make very precise measurements, now this wasn't technically a laser, but it's the same methodology, interferometry, to actually detect the alleged orbit of the Earth, and it didn't work. Here's another depiction for you, make sure you understand it. You're on a table, you shoot the light together, they intersect, come back down. Earth stationary, you get the same thing. If the Earth is moving, I just want to make sure everyone understands it here, as it reflects off, it's of course the Earth's moving away from it, so it's going to create this V pattern that's going to actually take longer to get there, thus it's going to be shorter in the same amount of time. This will give you what's called an interference pattern. They will overlap. I don't even know what's going on here. It's just in here a million times or something. So here, as seen, now this is what's so funny, right? So this is what they say. As seen by moving observers, okay? Meaning like if we're moving with it, we'll see it as if it's perfectly stationary. Now this wasn't the belief until after the test, right? Once the test showed that the Earth's not moving, we had to come up with some fairy tale as to why. Okay? So if the Earth is stationary, this is what we'll see. The theory says, oh, well, that's what's seen if the Earth is moving. If you're moving with the Earth, you see it as if it's perfectly stationary. But if you were to be outside the Earth and be stationary, or in, say, the reference frame of the sun, you would see the actual difference. So if you're on the sun and you see it, then you'll get to see the difference. If you're on the Earth, even though it's actually moving, it'll look like it's stationary. So they'll come back together at the same time, and then they'll come back different times if you're off the Earth and you're stationary while the Earth is moving. This is basically relativity. What's super funny is this actually didn't come back perfectly together. It just came back way too small for it to be the Earth's orbit. So they just said, oh, instrumental error. Okay, this isn't just a Michelson-Morley thing, though, and we all know I could go all day. Okay, and we'll get into that some more in a second, but simply put, let me come over here. Albert Michelson himself, he said, it appears that the Earth may be stationary. You have Einstein coming up with relativity just because of it. Simply put, and it'll cover this a bit in a second when we get to Einstein, but the test showed the Earth wasn't moving. So where did the idea that the Earth was moving around the sun come from? This guy who says he used his naked eyes to look at the sky, he couldn't get the math to work as easily unless he assumed we were going around the sun. So he assumed that we were going around the sun to make the math work because it was easier for him to do the math with his naked eye observations. And then he's quoted as saying, it's not even important that it's true or even probable. It's just convenient. It shouldn't be confused as if to actually be true. And then we fast forward to doing a test that specifically refutes it. Well, we're specifically refuting it, so let's take a step back then. Like, what's the evidence it was built upon in the first? Oh, nothing. So then, of course, scientifically speaking, you take the evidence for what it is. The Earth's not orbiting. There's no directly measurable or detectable movement of the Earth. But when you have a religion, you, of course, do not care what the evidence says. 1901, ionosphere. 1901, Marconi succeeded in sending the first radio transmission across the Atlantic Ocean, disproving detractors who told him that the curvature of the Earth would block the signal and limit the transmission at roughly 200 miles or less. The ionosphere was then discovered, quote unquote, actually theorized, to explain how this could be possible on a spherical Earth. This is very interesting because I am going to do a test where it's very simple. Let me come full screen for this. So on the globe, if you have a tower that's, say, 200 feet above the Earth, and you send out a wave, like a radio transmission horizontally, the wave is going to spread out. like this, right? And it's going to get wider and wider as it gets further and further. But you send it out horizontally. Now you're sending it over the ocean. The curvature of the Earth should block the waves. As the waves go, the curvature of the Earth will actually block it. So from around 200 feet, they were saying, oh, you won't even make it past 200 miles if you're lucky. The curvature of the Earth will block it. But on his first attempt, he sent it 2,200 miles, and the guy received it first time. So they're like, okay, if you're shooting something horizontally over a curved surface, that means that the surface is going to drop down further and further away from the signal, and part of it is going to be blocked by the curve, which means it'll effectively just keep going out into space. So they theorized, oh, it must be reflecting back from space. And that's when they came or discovered the ionosphere. Now, we're going to do a test where, according to the globe, there is something called a skip zone, because if you shoot the wave out, it gets blocked. It has to go up and bounce off the ionosphere, making like a V, going up and bouncing down, then going up and bouncing down, which means there's a very specific area that you can't receive the signal because it's going off towards space, and the rest of it's blocked by the curve. So if I send this transmission out horizontally and I have someone standing, so we're going to do it over the ocean to avoid topographical obstruction. If I have someone fly them out to an island, right, in the water, or if you can just go from landmass to landmass in the coast, say like Louisiana to Florida, right? The globe predicts that you cannot receive the signal because it's going off towards space. There's a skip zone, a dead zone, a skip zone, say like 200 to 800 miles, okay? If you receive the signal, it debunks the globe. It irrefutably disproves the globe if you receive the signal. So we're going to do the test. There is literally no way around it, by the way. There's no way out of it. Like all the globers have already been desperately trying to find ways to say, oh, if it happens, then let's come up with a way why. No, but they can't come up with anything because there isn't anything. But if you know the Earth's a globe, why would you be afraid of the test? So that was a side note. Anyway, actually, the globe was debunked in 1901, and then they just made up the idea that it must be reflecting off, and then they discovered the ionosphere. Now, of course, don't get me wrong, there is something out there that can reflect signals back on a plane, just so you know. But moving on. Okay. And now we have 1905, 1915. So 1905, of course, being about 18 years after Michelson-Morley. Primarily in response to the Michelson-Morley experiment, Einstein proposed the special theory of relativity, which attributed a constant speed to light and did away with absolute reference frames. Later, in 1915, he published the general theory of relativity, which is the currently accepted model of gravity, which is the currently accepted model. This theory was required to keep the heliocentric model alive. Now, many apologists will say he didn't know anything about the Michelson-Morley test when he came up with relativity. That's a narrative that goes around, and apparently he made some quote that he says, I'm not even sure if I was aware of it when I came up with relativity, right before he died. Well, you said specifically you were dozens of times. So if that quote's real or not, if it was delusional, if he was just lying on his deathbed, he just has a big ego, wanted more props or something, who knows, who cares? Okay. So this is where special relativity was brought into the mix. It says there is no absolute reference frame, and speed has the speed of light is constant, to explain away the Michelson-Morley results, saying, oh, well, if you're on the Earth, then you're not going to tell. It gets even worse than that, but we'll get into it in just a second. So here's a quote from Einstein. While I was thinking of this problem in my student years, I came to know the strange result of Michelson's experiment. Oh, you didn't even know about it, I thought. Anyway, I came to know the strange result of Michelson's experiment. Soon, I came to the conclusion that our idea about the motion of the Earth with respect to the ether is incorrect, if we admit Michelson's null result as a fact. This was the first path which led me to the special theory of relativity. Oh, so not only did you hear about it, my dude, it's the reason you made up relativity in the first place. This was the first path which led me to the special theory of relativity. Since then, I have come to believe that the motion of the Earth cannot be detected by any optical experiment, though the Earth is revolving around the sun. So, of course, basically asserting your belief that comes from some dude who says the math is easier doesn't make it true. So basically saying, oh, well, I look at it this morning, I decided there's no way to actually directly detect and measure the Earth's orbit around the sun, although I believe that it is. Next quote, to the question whether or not the motion of the Earth in space can be made perceptible in terrestrial experiments, that means on the Earth, experiments on the Earth. We have already remarked in section 5 that all attempts of this nature led to a negative results. Before the theory of relativity was put forward, it was difficult to become reconciled to this negative result. The theory of relativity helped save the fact that every time they tried to detect the motion of the Earth, it was negative. And here is one more. But when I was a student, I saw that experiments of this kind had already been made, in particular by your compatriot Michelson. Oh, when he was a student, he heard about Michelson again. That's crazy. He proved that one does not notice anything on Earth that it moves, but that everything takes place on Earth as if the Earth is in a state of rest. This, ballers, pay attention. This changed everything believed at the time. All these heroes, these Greeks, and all these different astronomers that discovered the telescope, and people pretend they're geniuses. All of them were wrong. Everything they believed was wrong. All of physics was wrong. Everything had to change because they came up with technology that could detect the orbit, and they didn't. So they were like, whoa. So everything always occurs as if the Earth is at rest. All our observations show us that the Earth is the center. Everything moves around us and repeats in cycles forever. We can never actually feel movement or directly detect it. Maybe the Earth's not moving and it's in the center? No. That's not an option. No, that's not an option. So that's not called science. That's called a religion. That's a belief system built upon the doctrine of men, specifically in this case of philosophy, called the Copernican principle. Okay, moving on. And here is from Ronald Clark, Einstein, The Life and Times. In his autobiography or his biography, the problem which now faced science was considerable, for there seemed to be only 3 alternatives. The first was that the Earth was standing still, which meant scuttling the whole Copernican theory and was unthinkable. What's the Copernican theory again, Globers? I hope you're taking notes. Oh, it's the idea that the Earth doesn't have a special or unique position in the universe, come up with a guy attributed to the guy named Nicholas Copernicus, who specifically said that it's just a theory. It doesn't matter if it's accurate or even viable. It doesn't matter if it's even probable. It doesn't matter at all. It's just a theory that the math is easier. All I have is naked eye observations, but I can make the math work. It's convenient. It shouldn't be taken as actual truth. That's where the Copernican principle comes from. It's the idea that the Earth cannot have a special place in the universe. Weird. Okay. 1915. This is where it starts to get very interesting and very telling for those with eyes to see. 1915, NACA founded. Okay, Congress established the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, or NACA, to separate the real, this is their official mission statement, quote, to separate the real from the imagined and make known the overlooked and unexpected in the quest for flight. Wow, to separate the real from the imagined and make known the overlooked and unexpected in the quest for flight. Interesting. In 1958, the NACA staff, research facilities, and know-how were transitioned to the new NASA, quote-unquote, from Smithsonian Institution. Very interesting. Okay. This is the same year as relativity, right? So just to keep in mind, 1915. 1925. Expanding universe. In 1925, Edwin Hubble made observations showing there is a direct relationship between the speeds of distant galaxies and their distances from the Earth. This was interpreted as evidence the universe is expanding. Now, up to this point, it was previously thought that everything was just randomly flying all around us based on different gravitational relationships and different vast distances. There's no way that these distant galaxies would have any direct relationship with the Earth. And so once he showed that they do, and you can look at the observations and that they all have a direct relationship with the Earth and their alleged interpreted distances and from the Earth and then their speeds, they were directly connected. So the only way to interpret this and maintain the heliocentric idea is to say that all the galaxies are actually moving away from you, moving out from you, but that it just looks like that. So they had to save the phenomenon by saying all the stuff around you is moving out away from you equally in all directions. But that's just an illusion. It just looks like that. We actually aren't in the center of where everything is moving from. Okay, so anyway, this was interpreted as evidence that the universe is expanding. Here's a quote from Edwin Hubble. Such a condition would imply that we occupy a unique position in the universe, analogous in a sense to the ancient conception of a central Earth. This hypothesis cannot be disproved, but it is unwelcome and would only be accepted as a last resort in order to save the phenomena. Science. Therefore, we disregard this possibility. Science. The unwelcome position of a favored location must be avoided at all costs. The unwelcome position of a favored location, like if the Earth has a favored special location in the universe, the unwelcome position that the Earth has a favored location must be avoided at all costs. Such a favored position is intolerable. Therefore, in order to restore homogeneity and to escape the horror of a unique position, it must be compensated by spatial curvature. There seems to be no other escape. Edwin Hubble. So why is he using this terminology here? I thought this was science. The horror of a unique position, a favored position, is intolerable. We disregard the possibility that cannot ever be disproven. Wow. That's pretty interesting. Okay. 1933, dark matter. Dark matter was first, quote-unquote, discovered in 1933 when Fritz Zwicky discovered that the mass of all the stars in the Coma cluster provided only 1% of the mass needed to keep the galaxies from escaping the gravitational pull of the cluster. Simply put, the gravitational prediction was off on its mass prediction by 99%. Okay, Glovers, pay attention. 1933, this guy looks out and he looks at a galaxy cluster. Okay, and then based on the gravitational prediction, based on the amount of visible mass that they say was there, that's how they're building the whole model, right? That there wasn't enough mass there to prevent the galaxies from escaping from the cluster. It didn't have enough matter or mass, so it didn't have enough gravitational pull to keep it there. It would escape. In fact, it needed 99% more mass. So the relativistic prediction, even if you use Newtonian prediction, same problem for both of them. The gravitational prediction in the heliocentric cosmology was off by 99% its mass prediction. It wasn't even close. And that's when they say they first discovered dark matter. My dude, this was almost a century ago. And they still can't even define what they call dark matter. Hey, I got a question for you real fast. If I have a theory, and my theory predicts that there are 100 pennies in the room next door, I show you all the math. And I say, look, there's 100 pennies on my desk. I used the math to describe my desk. And look, it says there's 100 pennies and there's 100 pennies on my desk. It also predicts there's going to be 100 pennies in the room next door. Okay, let's go test your theory. We take the math in there. We go to the next room. We look on that desk and there's only 1 penny. I say, bro, your theory doesn't work. It predicted 100 pennies, but there's only 1 penny. And imagine if I then said to the person critiquing me, wait. What are you talking about, bro? This is science. That's how it works. You have to just learn as you go. We're just trying to figure it out, bro. Clearly, there are 99 invisible pennies. They have the same qualities as pennies. They do the same thing as the other pennies. They're simply invisible, bro. So what we're going to do is come over here to my math, and we're going to just factor in 99 invisible pennies, and look, my prediction, my model does predict that there's only 1 penny there. What? Are you kidding me? Well, you better figure out about these invisible pennies. That's the most insane thing I've ever heard. Okay, yeah, give me a week or so. I'll come up with it. I'll figure out where the invisible pennies are, I promise. 100 years later. It's an absolute joke. All right, moving on. First discovered 1933. Gravity's prediction was off by 99% of the expected mass. Okay, and this is a big deal. This is a dynamic force prediction of physics that is supposedly explaining how galaxies stay amongst each other in a cluster, and the ramifications physically are immense. They would leave the cluster. They wouldn't be able to stay there. Your dynamic force relationship, based this much matter, this much gravity, your entire glue for your entire belief system was wrong, not just a little bit. It was 99% wrong almost a century ago, still hasn't been fixed, and then the alleged fix is a mathematical band-aid that to this day is unidentified. I just said invisible pennycons, and I'm like, yeah, they're pennycons. They're like pennies, but they're invisible. Okay, well, what are they? We don't really know, so we just call them invisible pennycons because we don't know what they are. Okay, well, can you figure it out, or we're gonna have to do away with your theory? No. My theory is the gospel. It must be held true forever. But we don't know what the pennycons are. They're invisible. All right, bro. 1953. Dark matter again. Side note. Vera Rubin made further observations showing the major inadequacy of the gravitational predictions as the Andromeda galaxy was rotating in a way completely contradictory to the gravitational theory / prediction. Simply, the outer edges were moving just as fast as the center, violating Newton's laws of motion. Instead of doing away with the theory, they now claim that 84% of the entire universe is comprised of undefined, undetected dark matter. Wow. So yeah, look, we went in the first room. I was off by 99%. Okay, well, we got 100 rooms. Let's see how good my theory does. Turns out they're in all the rooms of all the pennies that are in all the rooms on all the desks. 84% of them are invisible. But you must keep my theory for 100 years, and anyone that questions it, we shall mock them, scoff at them, and then ridicule them. They must be dumb. 1945, going back, we jumped up there just to cover dark matter. Operation Paperclip. I'm confused. I think I accidentally deleted one of them. Operation Paperclip is, of course, the operation where the U.S. government brought over roughly 1,600 Nazi scientists and engineers, and it was heavily secret and classified at the time. Wernher von Braun was one of the scientists brought over in the operation, later put in charge of space exploration for the United States. He oversaw building the first V-2 rocket that allegedly went to space. Wow. He had Psalms 19:1 put on his tombstone, which alludes to the firmament covering the earth. He also told his secretary space propaganda was being used to lie to the public. Totally legit. Sorry, I accidentally must have deleted the Operation Paperclip one. So that was 45, Operation Paperclip, where they brought Nazi scientists over here. 1946, Operation High Jump. Operation in which the United States explored the Antarctic region, founding the first American base in Antarctica called Little America. This was led and organized by Richard Admiral Byrd. Okay. Just so you understand here. The Nazis were obsessed with going to the outer regions towards Antarctica, trying to discover more land, absolutely obsessed with it. When they tell you that they died, they all went out towards South America, towards Argentina, and seemingly kept going towards Antarctica, where they had all kinds of bases, and they were obsessed with it. They were obsessed with ancient knowledge and obsessed with discovering different lands that seemed to not be discussed. They were obsessed with it. What does our government do? They take a bunch of those Nazis over to this government, and then they start to go explore Antarctica where the Nazis were obsessed. Wow. Okay. Very interesting. Oh, and then they actually took this guy who admittedly showed fake propaganda via the Nazi regime to the German people to convince them and trick them into believing that he had the most advanced rockets in the world. And they were showing them models and fake rocket launches to make them think they were going higher than they actually were and that they were more effective than they actually were, intentionally lying and propagandizing the German people to believe that their rockets were way better than they actually were and convince them that they could actually go to space. This is admitted. They then take that guy, bring him over here, say he's the world's best rocket scientist, then use the same alleged rocket to go to space. What a joke, dude. What a joke. Can't even make it up. So then they go explore the area that the Nazis were obsessed with, and it was led by Admiral Byrd. Now, I think I actually, insanely enough, forgot to add this part in here because I was trying to get it all done. I wanted to make sure to do the stream tonight. But Admiral Byrd, of course, came out on national television. We can watch the video maybe after the presentation. It came out and said, "It's astonishing to me that there's an area as big as the continental United States on the other side of Antarctica that remains unexplored with tons of resources and vegetation, and no one knows about it." And then, of course, he died shortly after that. And so they went and explored in 46. He did this in 1954, I believe. Maybe the chat can correct me. He died shortly after that, and then his son ended up dying in this weird, crazy accident. So totally legit. Nothing to see here. Anyway, so 45, Operation Paperclip. 46, Operation High Jump. The military goes right after bringing the Nazis over here. They go over to where the Nazis were obsessed with and start exploring Antarctica and found Little America, the first United States Antarctic base, led by Admiral Byrd, who said there was more land out there that no one knows about. 1947, the CIA, let me come back over here. 1947, so we got, again, just to keep up here, we got 45, Operation Paperclip. 46, High Jump, going exploring Antarctica. 47, CIA is founded. The National Security Act of 1947 established the CIA as an independent civilian intelligence agency within the executive branch. The act charged the CIA with coordinating the nation's intelligence activities and, among other duties, collecting, evaluating, and disseminating intelligence affecting national security. And anyone that knows anything about anything at this point knows the CIA is notoriously the most corrupt alphabet agency that exists. And that's saying a lot because they're all corrupt. The CIA is terrible, right? Like, they admitted to brainwashing people, MK Ultra, like literally practicing brainwash techniques on unsuspecting members of the public, including students at university that had no idea they were being experimented on. They were slipping drugs in food. They were doing all kinds of stuff. The CIA is absolutely egregious. Should have been disbanded so long ago. It's insane. And of course, we'd have to talk forever about the CIA. Maybe I'll do a CIA show one day. But of course, they also admitted to infiltrating the mainstream media at basically every level, having liaisons in every level to propagandize the public. And when the CIA representative in court was asked, "Are you saying that some of these news anchors are CIA agents?" he said, "Oh, we have to continue this conversation behind closed doors. Declassified Operation Mockingbird. We should totally trust them. They would never lie to us, though, except for all those times." Anyways, CIA was founded right after this. 45, Paperclip. 46, High Jump. 47, CIA was founded. 1948, The Mars Project was written, the science fiction book authored by none other than our buddy Wernher von Braun from just a moment ago, detailing the foundation of the first civilization on Mars, established by a character with the title Elon. What a coincidence. 1948. So the guy that lied to tons of Germans about going to space authored a science fiction book once the United States brought him over here in a secret operation called Operation Paperclip, in which he writes a story about the first civilization founded on Mars, and it's founded by a character whose title is Elon. He then dies, and on his tombstone has 19:1, which says there's a firmament. He then tells his secretary many times that all this asteroid, alien, space exploration propaganda is all a lie. It's all not true, and it's used to deceive the public. Seems legit. 1952, NSA is founded. What, the government's just going crazy in this time period, huh? The NSA was founded in 1952 by President Harry Truman to provide an effective, quote unquote, unified organization and control of the communications intelligence activities of the U.S. conducted against foreign governments, to provide for integrated operational policies and procedures pertaining hereto. But unfortunately, and one of the major things that even in the 70s they came out and they said, but it will never be used on domestic Americans. And of course, the NSA infamously is known to have been spying on all Americans across the board in all forms of communication for many, many years. In fact, to the extent that a whistleblower came out with the evidence. Who even knows? Maybe they wanted you to know, like, just, take it on the chin. All right, that's 52 NSA's founded. I just 46 Operation High Jump, right after Paperclip in 45. Then 47 CIA. 48, he writes this little book that's going to be used to propagandize people later. 52 NSA is founded. 1955 Operation Deep Freeze. This is where it starts to get very interesting. Okay, they obsessively go and research and explore Antarctica. Then 55. Deep Freeze is the code name given to a series of U.S. missions to Antarctica. This led into the International Geophysical Year in 1957 to 58, which was a collaborative effort among 40 nations regarding the North and South Pole explorations. Operation Deep Freeze started in 1955 and continued out to what's called the International Geophysical Year in 57 and 58. Remember those numbers. Which is all about coming together like an international collaborative agreement about the North and South Poles. 1957. DEW system. The Distant Early Warning Line is a system of radar stations in the northern Arctic regions of Canada, Alaska, Greenland, and Iceland, where the U.S. set up trip lines to monitor any activity north of the 55th north latitude. Wow. So they go and explore for 45 all the way throughout. They get up to 55. They do Operation Deep Freeze, where they then start to pay attention to anyone else and what anyone else is allowing to be done towards the north and the south. And then that leads into the 57-58 year, where they set up in 57 the Distant Early Warning System, basically creating a circle around the north with trip lines as low down as the 55th parallel, which is pretty interesting, huh? Sounds a lot familiar, like, I don't know, that you get towards the 60th south latitude and then you're not allowed to legally, freely, and privately explore past that region, even in the water, so that you couldn't even get to where you could actually see the shore of Antarctica. And then, when you start to get to around 55, it gets kind of sketchy when it comes to the globe predictions, when it comes to any type of navigation. Conveniently, you can't go past there, really. And then you flip it over, they do the same thing on the north. I thought the Earth's a ball, bro. Why they gotta monitor anyone trying to go to the north or the south? How's that not weird? Oh, there's no way they still do this, right? I mean, okay, so they set up a bunch of trip lines all around the north, detecting anyone moving within that region. So if you were to try to go up towards the North Pole, they're going to immediately know, and it's off limits once you get a certain distance away. Well, I mean, maybe they do still do it, because in 1988, they just replaced it with what's called a North Warning System, which replaced the Distant Early Warning Line in 1988 and is still active to this day, monitoring all explorative movement north of the 55th latitude. What's going on? Of course, you just go look at the whole northern region of Greenland's like inhabitable and no one goes there. So now you just go to your little Google Earth cartoon and try and go directly to the center of where the North Pole is supposed to be. And then you start pulling out your distant meter in all directions, see how close you can actually get to that thing. Dude, they are keeping an eye on the North Pole. They've been doing it since 1957. And that's openly admitted. No telling what they were doing before that. Okay. Go back to 57. Interesting year here. That's when they mapped out the firmament, at least according to official CIA declassified documents that were not declassified until 2000. Here you go. The investigation of the scattering of light in the Earth's atmosphere. This is again from 1957, not released and declassified. Why would this be classified, though? That's interesting. The observations were carried out in 12 locations at various altitudes above the sea, various climatic, meteorological, and synoptic conditions. The observations were carried out mainly during high transparency of the atmosphere and the visual range of the spectrum in the absence of a snow cover. In the investigations, 2 instruments designed by V.G. Veskinov were used. One of these was a visual photometer of the daytime sky intended for measuring the brightness of the firmament. The other was a photoelectric halo photometer for determining the brightness from near sun halo and also from the sun on a surface perpendicular to these rays. Wait, what? Okay, wait. What? Visual photometer of the daytime sky intended for measuring the brightness of the firmament and for near sun halo and also from the sun on a surface perpendicular to these rays. The dissertation contains a certain formula of the brightness of the sky, taking into consideration only the brightness of the first order and derived on the assumption of a flat earth, and giving some conclusions derived on the basis of this formula. For a certain coefficient of transparency of the atmosphere, the brightness of the sky at any point is represented by derivation of 2 functions, of which one is the function of the diffusion of light and the other is a function of the zenith distances of the sun and of the observed point of the sky. On changing of the zenith distances of the sun z from 90 to 0 degrees, the brightness of the sky on the ⴘⴘⴘ who cares of the sun increases first, reaching a maximum for a certain value of z and then decreases. A method is also proposed of determining the brightness of the clear daylight sky at any point based on measuring the brightness along the alcuminator of the sun and 5 to 6 points of the firmament located at various zenith distances. What? Of the sun and of 5 to 6 points of the firmament located at various zenith distances. The zenith is your position directly overhead. If you have different distances to the position directly over your head for a firmament, that would automatically be changing everywhere on the globe. Oh, wait, it was literally derived on a flat earth model, though. So that can't work on the globe. So it must not have worked. But then it goes on to say that this approximation method was proven accurate consistently. Interesting. Okay, that was 1957. 1958, and of course, think about everything they're doing. Just think about what they're doing right now. Like, they're like, we're going out to the south. Okay, no one else can go out to the south. We'll make sure we get the CIA to make sure we know whatever any countries are doing, what our own people are doing. Okay, let's make sure we spy on everyone with the NSA. Okay, let's keep going out to Antarctica, setting up bases and making sure that no one else can go there. And then we get this like collaborative effort to make sure that we know what every major country is doing with the North and the South, so we don't have anything we run into where they're not on the same page as us. And then 57, let's set up a trip line around the North Pole so no one can get there without us knowing and we can intercept them. Let's continue that all the way to modern times, replacing it and updating it in 88. And then go back to 57, right after we went and did all that, we mapped out the firmament. We know that it's actually a certain, has a specific zenith distance, and that you can actually accurately determine the brightness of the firmament and thus the atmos in relation to it using this method. And then in 1958, what do? They found NASA. Interesting. I didn't even put the NASA logo, my bad. After the extensive exploration and monitoring of the Arctic. Look, I can put it on there right now. I mean, you got to like real deal not have eyes to see to not notice that the government is up to some sketchy stuff, bro, in this sequence of events, right? Like, is it just me or... like, what you doing, bro? But was it really worth it, though? All right. After the extensive exploration and monitoring of the Arctic and Antarctic regions, NASA was founded to, quote, provide for research into problems of flight within and outside the Earth's atmosphere, and for other purposes. Of course, just the update, taking all of the previous existing infrastructure from NACA that was founded in 1915, right when they came out with Einstein's little save the heliocentric model paradigm thing, which is where I think maybe Einstein was just a front man. But anyway, there you go, 1958. So 57, firmament detected, dew system set up, right after deep freeze. What are we going to do next? The Antarctic Treaty is signed the next year. Wow. The Antarctic Treaty was signed in Washington on December 1st, 1959 by the 12 countries whose scientists had been active in and around Antarctica during the International Geophysical Year of 57 through 58. It entered into force in 1961 and has since been acceded to by many other nations. The total number of parties to this treaty is now 56. This treaty restricts free and private exploration of the Antarctic region. This is their actual, it's called like the Legion of Antarctica or something like that. Forgot what it's called. This is like the actual... This is the actual... Sorry, I just found another NASA symbol. It's so goofy. Anyway, this is the actual logo. What are the odds, huh? So, yeah, let's go explore the region that the Nazis were obsessed with. So we get the Nazis to kind of help us go explore it. And then what we'll do is we'll go look at the north and the south. We'll set up monitoring systems in both situations. And then we'll found NASA. And then we'll say no one else can go to Antarctica. Then the very next year. 57, 58, 59. What the crap? 55, Operation Deep Freeze. That goes into 57, 58, which is the geophysical year, which is about the north and south area poles being like limited to people. Set up the trip line that blocks you from there. Then go NASA founded Antarctic Treaty. 1961, DIA founded, the Defense Intelligence Agency. On October 1st, 1961, with only 25 personnel and borrowed space in the Pentagon, the Defense Intelligence Agency was born. The agency would go on to manage and direct an increasing array of missions and functions that provide intelligence support to the National Command Authority and the war fighter. And look at their cool little logo they got here. Totally not weird at all. 1962, no monitoring south. Prove me wrong. Oh, well, if you think that you know more than the people that claim they're out there monitoring, then, I mean, whatever. Operation Fishbowl, 1962. Operation Fishbowl, part of the larger Operation Dominique, which translates to of the Lord. So it's literally Operation Fishbowl of the Lord, as you can see the picture here on the right, was a series of high-altitude nuclear tests beginning in June of 1962. The alleged first successful missile was titled Starfish Prime. Starfish? As if they're in water or something. It is not well known that the U.S. actually began their high-altitude explosion tests in 1958, the same year NASA was founded. Easily verifiable. Go look into Operation Fishbowl 62, and then you can just go to the Wikipedia page, and it'll talk to you about they were actually sending up balloons, 9,000 feet, and different types of explosions even higher, as early as 58. Wow. 1962, same year. This was in June. This was in September. Of course, this ended in like November. And then here we are in September 62. JFK announces the moon landing. JFK gave a speech announcing that we would land on the moon within 8 years on September 12th, 1962. He said, "We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard." So he predicts very boldly that we'll go to the moon and walk on it within the decade. In 67, then you have the Outer Space Treaty. Now, they took out the guy that said there was more land in Antarctica in between all of this, of course. Here's the Outer Space Treaty on principles governing the activities of states in the exploration and use of outer space, including the moon and other celestial bodies. The Outer Space Treaty was considered by the Legal Subcommittee in 66, and agreement was reached in General Assembly in the same year. The treaty was largely based on the Declaration of Legal Principles governing the activity of states in the exploration and use of outer space, blah, blah, blah. The Outer Space Treaty provides the basic framework on international space law, including the following principles. The exploration and use of outer space shall be carried out for the benefit and in the interest of all countries and shall be the province of all mankind. Oh, who's the arbiter of the best interest of mankind? time. Outer space shall be free for exploration and use by all states, just not their people. Outer space is not subject to national appropriation by claim of sovereignty, by means of use or occupation, or by any other means. States shall not place nuclear weapons or weapons of mass destruction in orbit or on celestial bodies, or station them in outer space in any other manner. The moon and other celestial bodies shall be used exclusively for peaceful purposes. Astronauts shall be disregarded as the envoys of mankind. Wow. States shall be responsible for national space activities, whether carried out by government or non-governmental entities. States shall be liable for damage caused by their space objects. And then you could basically just bout to all kinds of pseudoscientific, fantastical, cartoon of claims that we make up after this. But what is very interesting about this is most people don't know that they actually claim to have an outer space treaty founded in 1967. So it's very funny, I guess, that all you have to do is read the Antarctic Treaty, dude, if you want to know that they monitor the South. Yeah, most people don't know about this, but it's pretty funny that they do indeed have this. And if you actually look into it, they had like a partnership with NASA, with Disney regarding this treaty, which is super weird and random, if I'm not mistaken. All right, 1967, same year, we have Gus Grissom incidents. So in 1967, Apollo astronaut Gus Grissom died in a tragic accident in an explosion on NASA's facilities and the routine checking of wires. Gus was very outspoken and openly critical about the viability of success regarding the Apollo missions. In fact, he hung a lemon on the lunar module to depict that it wouldn't work. He consistently expressed doubt about how they could ever go to space. And then here's a picture of what happened to him in a routine checking of wires on NASA's facilities. He fatally explodes because they accidentally pumped a tube full of oxygen and the door locked from the outside. So he was trapped inside, could do nothing about it. And there goes the guy that hung the lemon on the module and was basically calling out their ability to go to space. 1968, you have 2001 Space Odyssey, a movie directed by Stanley Kubrick, which was about a moon landing mission. It won Film of the Year and normalized the previously unheard of idea that people could land on the moon. So this won Film of the Year. It's about a moon mission. In fact, it's actually about AI, basically, the computer kind of like taking over. It's pretty funny, but it's an intolerably bad movie. Anyway, it conditioned all the public to normalize the idea of going to the moon, landing on the moon. This won Film of the Year. Everyone saw it the year before the moon landing in 1969, when men supposedly stepped foot on the moon, this dusty, insignificant rock that came from a Mars-sized body hitting the Earth and breaking up into a bunch of little pieces, and it just happened to stick around right around 1/400th the distance of the sun, and then coincidentally be 1/400th the size of it as gravity, their God that was all present forever, bowed down to gravity because it is omnipresent and the creative force that coalesced all things into existence that you perceive, and you have a little g and a big G. Anyway, so on this magical dusty rock that seemed to defy physics, and it's like incredible how amazing the odds are that it's there the way it is. It's actually still insignificant at the same time. Men supposedly stepped foot on that thing in 1969, conveniently just within the close of the decade, as JFK predicted. After he was killed, of course. Men have not claimed to be back on the surface of the moon since then, over 5 decades later, but that's how you know it was legit, because they made it in this aluminum foil tweaker hut. 1972. The infamous original blue marble, the famous first shot of the Earth in entirety, as of course the sphere can't be in entirety, you get half of it, but you understand the premise, being a globe from outer space. This cemented the idea of the globe Earth in the minds of the public. After hundreds and hundreds of desperate attempts and constant failure, they send a picture from space. There was not another quote-unquote real picture of the Earth claimed until 2015. Almost 50 years. You can't get another real picture. The blue marble of 2002, which was the default wallpaper on the first generation iPhone, was famously, quote unquote, photoshopped because it has to be. And we all know that coming from Robert Simmons. The picture they showed everyone was provably fake. So, in conclusion, as that was kind of all over the place, what we clearly saw was the government has worked together in a very quick sequential order of hiding the nature of where you live. Wake up. The governments of the world are clearly hiding the true nature of the Earth. Philosophy is not science. Sun worship is not science. Blind guesses due to simpler math is not science. Ignoring evidence is not science. Consensus is not science. CGI is not science. And presupposition is not science. Finally, religion is not science. Okay, let's come over here. So there you go. That was like real deal, like schooling the Globers, like just basic stuff here that you should learn in Flat Earth 101, basically. So cool. What's going on, fellas? Let me pull the YouTube up. I think it's more live. So this is the world that we live in, and what I find to be very interesting, as I showed here. Like, I didn't even know about some of this stuff, so I did not know that this was a thing. I knew that it was like FAA has regulations. You can't really fly over the North Pole, and it's super suspect, and all these different countries don't let you get too close. And then like Greenland's like not inhabitable, and no one lives anywhere close to there. And like, really, where is the center? Where's your map? Can't even get to the center. How am I supposed to create some Cartesian coordinate system without even knowing where the center is, and then being able to lay the other lands out proportionate to that? But can you not use your brain? Like, it's weird. But the North Warning System, dude, that's active today. It goes down to the 55th south latitude. They literally have the north and the south sewn up, bro. That is wild, dude. That, like, how can a normal person with a brain know that the government, right around the same time, decide they're going to monitor the north and the south and not let people freely go there, and then start shooting stuff up in the air and stopping a certain distance? At the same time, they were doing studies and have documents saying they knew there was a firmament. At the same time, the same exact time, they literally have documents saying they knew there was a firmament. How in the world can a normal person like think that that's just all legit? I truly don't get it. Love your content and message. Witsit. Did any Glober explain how the Earth's iron core at 9,300 degrees Fahrenheit creates a magnetic field when the Curie temperature for iron losing magnetism is 1,418 degrees Fahrenheit? Nope. $10 super chat. Thank you so much, brother. No, but I mean, their explanation is that it's not actually from the core. They updated the model once they realized the Curie problem. And so they say that it's actually the outer core, which is a little cooler, and that it's actually the motion. It's not the material itself, but it's the motion of the outer core that creates convection currents, and this electricity generates a magnetic field. And this model also doesn't work, but that's their answer. Their model admittedly doesn't work for all kinds of reasons. They have to for their model, they have to pretend that there's like perfect convection currents, but there can't be. So they can't even explain how it would actually be able to radiate all the way out to where it supposedly is, because they would need basically perfect convection currents that they have to assume but aren't real. And then like the anomaly or discrepancy between the surface strength and the center is like something like 50,000 times off the predicted value of the model at certain places on the surface. Then you have, of course, the asymmetry, meaning that the north and south aren't symmetrical at all. The south has like up to 35% or greater discrepancy with the predicted model, and it's really 30 to 35% or more weaker than the north, which doesn't make sense on a sphere. It should be symmetrical, and we can go on and on. We will do a schooling Globers about that specifically. I wanted to kind of just cover some of the basics with this PowerPoint so people get the general idea, and it's my first time using OBS really. It's apparently in a while. So where do I get the flat earth hoodie you wore in the movie? Maybe flatearth.co. I think it's flatearth.co. In a world. I don't know. Maybe not. I'm sorry. I don't know for sure right now. Hey, Austin. I'm late. It's okay. I forgive you. I love this new stream format. Looks nice. Thank you. Good wit hunting. 450 watching. 214 likes. Hit the likes, people. What he said. Hit the likes, cuz I don't have 450 watching on mine though. It says 300. Oh, there you go. 440. Only 215 likes, bro. Smash the like. How many of you guys are ballers? It's okay, though. I guess this show is for you guys to come and learn. Yeah. So I'm trying to create like a format like this for each of the shows. So should be cool. Yeah. Learn about your belief system before believing it. Dang, I want that hoodie. Yeah, I mean, I'll like go to my Telegram chat, and then when I find the answer, I'll drop the link in my chat. The chat is t.me/miswits. Yep, t.me/miswits. Dropping it in the chat now. Sure. I think that the chat looks okay over here. I mean, maybe it could look cooler, but. Hear that drink? What does that mean? How could anyone be a glober when there's no globe? I don't know. Good question. Technically, you can be anything you want, right? I mean, you can identify as a spaceship, bro. Don't be a bigot. Are you dehydrated? I drink so much charcoal water today, bro. Which oh, that mic's too good. We can hear the gulps. Yeah, my bad. Nah, it's just like after reading all that and saying all that, I guess my throat feels like scratchy. So let's see what else we got here. We got this one. Short break. If I needed to step away, I could like play a song while I step away. See, I think this is cool. I think we're gonna have all kinds of different setups. Yeah. I gotta set all this up where it like show. You see down here, it'll show like the most recent donation. Also, I guess there is another way to donate where you can send a message. I set the thing back up. It's you go to Witsit.live. Witsit.live, and if you donate, it'll pop up on the screen. So there you go. Hey, what's that? Defender channel. Hey, I hear the fan of like the computer. New format is fantastic. Thank you. I guess we can always try what we seem to have not been able to do ever. To kind of back up some of the stuff here. And what? Does anyone know what's Werner von Braun's secretary's name? I mean, should we give YouTube some money? Well, that's why if you go to Witsit.live, it doesn't give YouTube any money. That was like the whole point, bro. Hey man, I've watched from afar for a while. Thank you. What is your opinion on ETs? I used to believe in ETs from outer space. Not anymore. Gerardo Alvarez, thank you for the super chat. I don't know what MX is, but thank you for the generous super chat. Extraterrestrial means extra land. So I think there could just be extra land. And I think that there may be people that come from extra land and maybe they're more advanced. They have like ability to fly, more efficient crafts. So I don't believe it in the way that people will talk about it. But yeah, extraterrestrial, extra land. They come from the outer spaces, not the upper space. Okay, from 58 to 68, Project Man High was important. The space rockets were a distraction. Project Man High. Okay. That's what's up. There you go. 1958. Thank you, Harmon Walker, for the $10 super chat. I have no doubt in my mind that the timeline can be way better, but I will say, here it is, right? And you can add to it. I can add to it within PowerPoint, or we can add a third one. And I started to add a third one, right, where there's like the Moon Treaty and 79. There's a bunch of other stuff. There's stuff that I even missed in here. But I think it's kind of cool to just kind of be able to take a screenshot right here and show people, like, look what your government was doing. 45, 6, 7, 8, 52. Like, it's kind of crazy. It's actually kind of wild when you really think about it. So now some people don't want to think about it, right? And I guess that's their prerogative. But we're just here to scold the Globers, right? Because if you remember, it is the first step. It's the first step, bro. The alien deception is going to be demons. Yeah, like if you put everything on here, dude, you'd be here forever. I just think about that. It's the first step, bro. Welcome to Miswit Level 1, Donnie Pettit. Thank you for becoming a Miswit. Donnie Pettit. What a name. That's hilarious. Third world currency down here in Mexico. Nice, though. Our Mexico is gorgeous and like much more free and not nearly as bad as people try to say it is. Oh, I thought my mic was tripping, but maybe I was tripping. No, it needs to be tightened or something. All right, cool. So I'll just kind of keep you guys. I'll get you guys all up to date here. So as you see, we're gonna run OBS. I think I'll be able to limit a lot of the technical difficulties. StreamYard just was dropping the ball super hard. So yeah, I'm going to have right now. What I think is we're gonna have a show called Relatively Simple. Where we get into some of the stuff about gravity and just stuff like that, but really like maybe a call-in show that may evolve into just like a debate show, but obviously like none of like just the chaos. Like it's got to be respectful. So I think we may have a debate show, and that maybe on Mondays, around 8, and then Wednesdays at 8 p.m. So it'll be 2 hours earlier than I started tonight. That is Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern, Schooling the Globers. And then Fridays, we're going to have a show called In the Field, which is the same title as my song, but it's discussing with people in their respected fields. So I'll have people come on with certain credentials or whatever, and we'll discuss subjects within their respected fields. So just like professionals with certain credentials, to cut through this whole facade that if someone has credentials, they must be right. Or if they think there's a ball, then it must be a ball because they have credentials. Like, oh, this astrophysicist, this astronomer, this geologist, blah, 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 blah. This aerospace engineer, this professor here, and this professor in physics. And okay, well, we'll see. So that's going to be In the Field. So that's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm going to have a normal show where I just get to cover like any random topics. I know a lot of people like when I just cover random topics, not just flat earth all the time, which I prefer that as well. And then I think a lot of people want me to bring back the biscuits and gravy. So that's going to be called Witsit's Biscuits and Gravy. Vacuum energy, the magnetic flux creates the bias. That's not a terrible way to say it. Magnetic flux magnetism itself is actually just the process of trying to get back to the ether in that sense, maybe, but not really, man. Like, sort of. It's not unrelated. It's definitely not unrelated, but thank you for super chat. Vacuum energy density is what creates the bias, maybe, right? But what is that? Well, that's an etheric ripple down. I can't think of a simpler way to put it, but to still be like very technically accurate from the way that I see it, at least, right? I'm just some dude. In the field, that's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Yeah. Yep. So we're going to do Witsits, biscuits, and gravy. I think that'll be Sunday mornings. It'll have to be a short show, though, because we have Glow Busters and we're rebranding all of that, which is going to be dope. And like doing official presentations, stuff like that. Then we'll have Monday, relatively simple. Wednesday, Schooling the Globers, both 8 p.m. Eastern. Friday, In the Field, I think 9 p.m. Eastern, because I think Jaren's show goes a little bit later on Fridays. And then I'll work out the other days. I can only do so much. I mean, that's just so many streams. Like, imagine me streaming Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday, 2 streams on Sunday, and then I want to try to do like a Patreon only stream and do stuff for the members only. Like, I can't overdo it. I'm gonna have to maybe take Tuesdays off or something. Like, there's no way. There's absolutely no way. Especially if I'm like putting the presentations together. It's just anyway. I'm gonna create a different theme and design for each show. We'll have a different layout. It'll get much smoother. I'll work out all the kinks where I'm running OBS really smooth, and being able to have people come on, and the show will get significantly better within a month. I'm also going to start making appearances different places. You can tell the pictures of the Earth from the moon on the moon's horizon are fake because the face of the moon always faces Earth. So Earth would always be above you, not off to the horizon. That's pretty interesting. Yeah, I've heard that. I mean, I don't know if I entirely agree, though. It depends on a whole bunch of specifics, but thank you for the $10 super chat. Did you play soccer? No, I played baseball, football, basketball. Thank you for the $2 super chat. Oh, don't overdo it. Thank you. Yeah, I agree. LO, you need sleep. Yeah, I need sleep right now, honestly. But cool. Like, I'm just now, like, I like really was lacking on like working out, so I'm like working out in the mornings, so I can't be doing shows super late if I'm gonna work out super early. So don't forget, Austin, you have a wife and a child too. Yeah, I trust me, I know, and I have to like support them. So we're gonna have to work all that out. Where can you access the PowerPoint? I'll try and drop it in my Telegram, which is for the streams. I'll probably drop it in my chat as well, but I'll drop it in the streams chat, which is t.me/Witsit streams in Telegram, because that's where you can drop like all kinds of big files. So I'll drop the link, t.me/Witsit streams. That's where I normally drop all the stream related contents. Dropping it in the chat in 3, 2, 1. Grateful for you. Want to enjoy the ether at home? Peel open the outer wrapper of a Band-Aid in a dark room and enjoy the blue light. Whoa, what? That's pretty interesting. Thank you, Melissa Schultz, for the $20 super chat. I'll have to check that out. I'm not sure what you're talking about, but thank you again for the support. Politically Provoked on Cozy TV might be doing their first debate in a year. Would love to have you debate HW there. He's a contractor with NASA. Lots of your fans there on Cozy. Nope. $10 super chat. Thank you. Yeah, I told him I was down to do a flat earth like showdown. If there's a contractor with NASA, I'll debate him. I mean, contractors with NASA don't intimidate me, that's for sure. You know what a contractor is? Like, contracting doing what? But yeah, sure. Happily will debate them. That sounds like someone that should come on my in the field and discuss whatever he's contracted in his respected field. Because I'm about to just completely knock through this whole facade that flat earth is so stupid, Witsit's so stupid, flat earth is so dumb. Everyone that has credentials knows this and this and this and this. No. Like, this whole idea that like flat earthers just could never hold a conversation with credentials. Well, I do it all the time, and I think that what I've realized is you guys don't get to see it enough, and I think that you guys should see it. So I think you guys may know, but people newer to the discussion don't know. They hear me talk to someone that's like an expert in the field of astronomy or astrophysics, physics or geology. They find out very quickly, like, why is this flat earther stumping this guy, or all up, like, being able to go back and forth with them on all these, like, technical details about this guy's field. Flat earth must not be that stupid, or why would he be able to stump him in his expertise? But it's just respectful, cordial conversation. I'm not trying to, like, ambush them with insult or set them up with debate that's aggressive or anything like that. I just want, like, higher level intellectual discussion that's respectful, because that's all that accomplishes the goal, which is to just, like, show the narrative that we're so stupid is patently false. Well, noted, we'll bug him to come on in the field. Nice. All right, cool. I am kind of tired. Got to get up and work out early. But School in the Globers, episode 8, not bad. Basic globe deception timeline. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Some people may be new and not know all about it. As you can tell, the stream is going to improve in quality. It may take a little bit to work out all the kinks and get all the themes right, get all the lighting right. You guys will get it, but I think that the channel is about to take a huge step up. I just launched Rumble. You can go to Rumble as well. You can also, of course, go to rockfin.com/Witsit, which actually does support me, and I definitely don't mind getting paid by them, because YouTube just little grabblers that want to have their hand on everything. Okay, cool. Great stream, brother. Thank you. Cool. Yeah, and I think that the last stream is a little higher level. I talked really fast, but I think that it's got some important stuff. We'll do like maybe the magnetic field of the Earth next or whatever. You guys should check out my Telegrams, though, and that's where I'll drop... I haven't been particularly active in there for like a week or two, but I normally am. I'll drop like some chats in there, some polls, and you guys can vote on what the next School in Globers is about. Cool. Working on the themes for the rest of the shows. We'll have official themes for each show, and then we're going to maybe even go to the theme songs of each show. People keep asking me to drop a couple bars, so I may do that. Cool. And people are asking for a lyric video of In the Field still. I'm like, okay, I probably should have done that a while back, so I guess I'll do that. All right, cool. I think that's about it. I want one of the days when I'm just like the chill show, my show, or whatever you want to call it. Just like I'll read whatever letters I have from the PO box. I already have a few I need to read. I'll read the letters in the PO box. So I think that'll be like once a week, though. I can't just write. There's like basically never anything in the PO box, so I can't just go check it every day. It's like a drive. Like I don't like. Great stream. We love Fast Austin. Talk even faster. You say that, but sometimes I talk too fast for sure. So we'll do that. I'll keep you guys updated, and there'll be an official calendar. You can just go check it out. You can also donate at witsit.live, and I'll check on that. Say you watch the replay and you donate there. I'll read them off during the chat. You can leave up to like 250 characters on witsit.live donation, and I think that's it. They should all pop up. I think that Kai thinks I should do like over $20. The voice reads it out loud, so we may do that because it's kind of funny. It'd have to be over a certain amount. People get kind of annoying. All right, hope you guys enjoyed. Seek and speak truth unequivocally. Oh, I don't know if I have the. Let me see if I even have the outro lined up here. Oh, I think I do. We're just gonna try it, man. Look, stuff happens, you know. Either it works or it doesn't work. You fills me. Yo, Austin, been following for a while, and my life is better for it. Question: is it in the plans to debate Professor Dave? Adrian Jones, thank you for the $5 super chat. Yeah, I think so. I think it needs to happen, but I wanted it to be just like a fair platform, and that seems to be some type of issue. I mean, well, he just refused modern day debate. So, but yeah, I definitely think I should debate him. I think it's well needed, and so as long as I can create some situation where it's not just like completely unfair, I don't get to talk, I get interrupted. As long as it's like not something like that, then yeah, of course, I think he needs to be debated for sure. So I would say the answer is for sure yes. Cool. Getting the NASA newsletter out, NASA audits newsletter out this week for sure. I know I've been trying to do that and saying that for a while, but we're going to get that newsletter out today or this week. I'm going to be sending everyone different messages to get to the private Telegram chat, and then trying to divvy out all the different like tasks and stuff like that so we can keep it going. I cannot run that thing by myself. There's just no way. So finally get the ball running on that. Check your emails. I have to go through all the emails personally one by one because like it's just a whole freaking thing, bro. But anyway, I might have to check the message I don't know where it'll send it to you. Hopefully your email. Hopefully you'll get it, right? Because I'll try to message you back so I can line it all up. That's very time consuming, but I'm going to try to get that done this week, and then we'll get NASA audits on the road. And then I also I'm not even going to say that part yet. So cool. All right. I think that's about it. Format is key. Yeah, like I've just been like all over the place. No one know when I'm gonna stream or what time and stuff. I'm just gonna have a schedule. It's gonna make my life easier, your life easier, the quality better, all that. So cool. All right. Thank you guys for kicking it. Seek and speak truth unequivocally. The weak find contentment in the consensus of ignorance. So informed people don't care what ignorant people think. Strong people don't care what weak people think. And when they revile you for his name's sake or for the truth's sake, rejoice, for they did it to all the prophets before you. If you're not getting shot with arrows, you're probably not doing something right. What's true is not popular. What's popular is not always true. So just stand up in the face of societal ostracism and do what's right, which is always to just diligently seek the truth. Humble yourself once you find the truth, and then to go from there. Cool. Thank you guys for kicking it. I'll catch up with you guys later. Geopolitically, we in a field that's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Rappers acting, say they high, say they sip with pills. Glorify suicide so they get the deals. Big Pharma set it up just to flip the pills. Control the music industry until the scripts get filled. Geopolitically, yeah, we in a field that's for Israel. Wonder, is it real?